What is up, everyone? We are back here with another episode of the College Sports Hive. That's Leaf. I'm Scott. It is Thursday, February 25th, and we are here to cover Michigan and Iowa. We have a preview of the game that's going to take place tonight. The game will be at 7 p.m. Eastern Time tonight on ESPN. But before we get to the preview, we got a couple housekeeping things to get to with all of y'all. First off, we have a big shout out to all of you out there listening. We asked and y'all received and delivered on our request, and it was truly an amazing day. We woke up yesterday with 14 subscribers on YouTube, and we went to bed last night with 122. So that is 108 new subscribers just in one day, and we truly can't thank y'all enough for that, for what y'all did. It was truly fantastic. But we want that trend to keep going. We want to continue moving forward in the positive direction here. So tell your family, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your dog, your hamster, whoever you really hold dear in your heart. Someone out there is a sports fan and needs to hear this, and will be entertained by us two, just us two kids just trying to do what we love to do. So give a like, give a follow, give a shout out. Anything that you do helps us gain notoriety. So we'll appreciate anything that you want to offer. Also, we do want to hear from all of y'all. So please reach out, comment, like, and reach out via DM, whatever you want to do. If you know us personally, you can text us if you want to see things altered. If you don't really like the changes that we've made, that's fine too. We'd love to hear some constructive criticism. So hit us up with all those. But first off, we wanted to take the chance to say thank you. That was truly amazing, and what a time. Secondly, in housekeeping, we were going to have two previews for today, but one of the games was canceled by the Big 12 conference, and that game was clearly West Virginia, the number 10 team in the country, and the number 2 team in the country, Baylor. This is new news, essentially, when we're recording this, and it is something that is very sad. I know Leafs disappointed. It's going to be a fantastic game, but with that being said, the Big 12 conference did not want Baylor to have 2 weeks in a row where they played 3 consecutive games. So with that being said, the game today is off, and it will be made up on March 2nd in Morgantown at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on either ESPN or ESPN2. Give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, like you said, I was definitely bummed when I heard the news. You texted me that it was canceled or postponed, and I'm thankful it's postponed rather than canceled, because I think West Virginia at this point probably is the second best team in the Big 12. They've been really consistent since they've moved on from Oscar Tshiebwe and have the pieces that could challenge Baylor. And my second thought is that Baylor may have escaped here. Because they came off a pause and really struggled against an 0-14 in the Big 12 now team in Iowa State, winning only by 5 points there. And now you go to Morgantown, West Virginia. That's not an easy game. So I think this is very fortunate for Baylor, but I also think it's the right decision from the Big 12, especially if with a candidate in Baylor who's your best team. And you don't want to tire them out, replay games at too fast a pace, because they have a real chance of winning not only the Big 12, but the national championship. And if this were to cause another pause, another positive test, or injuries, that could really derail a season, not only for Baylor, but for the Big 12 and as a conference.
Yeah, definitely. This is the 4th time this season that this game was supposed to happen today, and it was canceled or postponed for the 4th time. But in a positive note, this is the first time all season is not postponed due to one side of the equation having COVID issues. So good news there. Just some precautionary measures by the Big 12 conference. It seems like both sides are in agreement. There will be one game played between these two schools by the end of the year. So they're missing one of the games that would have happened. But with that being said, we do get to see these teams lace it up against one another once, which is very good. All right. So with all that being said, instead of two previews, we just have this one, which is going to be a fantastic game here in the Big Ten. Let's find where we are at here with number 9 Iowa traveling to number 3 Michigan. 7 p.m. Eastern time, like I said, on ESPN tip-off. This is a massive game in the landscape of the Big Ten, and this is a massive week for the Iowa Hawkeyes. This is their first of 2 enormous games. This one clearly with Michigan, and then this weekend they will play Ohio State. So three of my, in my opinion, the best teams in the Big Ten are going to have a little triangle here with Iowa being the team that has to unfortunately play both these teams in 2 games in a row. So a little bit of tough draw there scheduling, but with that being said, Iowa's got a ton of firepower and offensive capabilities to handle both of these teams. Let's get down to business here and talk this matchup and your first thoughts that come to your mind when you hear Iowa and Michigan going at it.
Yeah, Iowa got a gauntlet this week, but I think Iowa's got to think, look, we control our own destiny in this, and we have all the power in the world that we're a good enough team. We are the team to beat. They have to think that, whether that's the case or not, they have to believe that. And this week is a great challenge to them. And Fran McCaffery's got to drill that home, that if they win both these games, they're the front runners in the Big Ten. And that's a huge deal. As for this game in specific, I love some of the matchups in this game. I mean, you've got Hunter Dickinson versus Luka Garza, their first matchup. Last year, Luka Garza went off for 44 points against the senior John Teske in the Chrysler Center in Ann Arbor. And then this year, you got Hunter Dickinson, who I wouldn't say is as good of a defender as John Teske, but he's a far better offensive player. That's a battle. Then you've got Franz Wagner and Joe Wieskamp. That's a great battle. These are probably the 2 best bigs in the conference, in my opinion. Apologies to Kofi Coburn, but I think Hunter Dickinson has been better for Michigan, elevated their team more than Kofi does for Illinois. That one's very close, and I'm up to debate anyone there. But long story short, this one is great because you get great offense and an improving defense in Iowa versus a team in Michigan who is kind of top 10 in both offense and defense, and is only getting more confident out of their pause, winning all 3 of their games out of pause and starting to hit their groove, and offensively hit a very high level themselves against Ohio State this past weekend.
I totally agree with you. This is a big matchup. Let's talk records here. Iowa's 17-6 overall, 11-5 in conference play. That gets them in there at 4th in the standings. Michigan is an impressive 16-1 so far in their year, 11-1 in conference play. Gives them the number 1 overall spot in the Big Ten conference standings. KenPom, this is the 4th best team in rankings in Iowa and the 3rd best team in rankings in Michigan. So that's an interesting stat in amongst itself. That's 5 spots higher than the AP ranking for Iowa. Iowa has the best offense in considering their efficiency ratings at number 1 overall. 74th defensively, which is definitely an increase since we last documented that. I think the lowest I've seen them go is 109th defensively. So clearly they've figured something out that gets them at least middle of the road. That's still a little bit on the low end of things in my eyes, but the improvements are being made. And I think that's a story that really needs to be documented.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked about how Kansas made strides defensively, and their coach Bill Self would talked about their defensive strides, their adjustments, and I think Fran McCaffery's adjusted their zones. They've played different percentages of zone versus man, and they've really improved, made life harder on the Penn State team that they just played. They also had a big win against Wisconsin, limited Wisconsin to 62 points. I think what the big thing in this game for me in terms of Iowa is Luka Garza has to show his class against Hunter Dickinson. I think as much as you want to play better defense, and you have to in order to win, I think their best defense in this game is their offense, and they have to execute well. Luka Garza has to be the best big in this game, and it can't be very close because I think the supporting cast of Michigan is better than the supporting cast of Iowa around Luka Garza. And then for the supporting cast of Iowa, you need to hit some of those threes that the Garza's attention that he's going to draw. And with CJ Frederick back, I think this helps. they're shooting a very high percentage from three. They're shooting nearly 40% from three at 40.3% from three, third in the country. But you're going to have to shoot that percentage or better to beat Michigan because their offense is nearly as dynamic as Iowa's with a far superior defense, despite the improvements by Iowa.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk those numbers here for Michigan. They're 7th in offensive efficiency via KenPom and 11th in defensive efficiency. You touched on the 3-point shooting numbers for Iowa. Let's get into some of these other numbers that really make them who they are offensively as to why they're the first offensive efficiency team in the country. They're third in points per game at 86.4. They are third in 3-point percentage, like you mentioned. They're second in the country with assists per game at 19.6, third in the country at turnovers a game at 9.7. And together that stat adds up to first in the country in assist to turnover ratio at 2 assists to a turnover, excuse me. But yes, this offense is explosive. But what can Michigan do kind of defensively to really slow down the playmaking potential that Iowa has? Because Iowa can hurt you from a multitude of different places.
Yeah, Michigan's going to have its hands full dealing with Luka Garza, but also I think the rise of Joe Wieskamp, we've documented. He's played great of late. Jordan Bohannon, CJ Frederick's back. What Michigan's going to have to do is they're going to have alternating coverages on Luka Garza, whether they double off the first dribble, whether they double on the catch. They can't be too predictable because Iowa has shown the ability to adapt because they've had the kitchen sink thrown at them at Luka Garza. And Michigan, what they're going to have to do is rely on the size of Hunter Dickinson. Don't foul. They're going to need what's his name, Austin Davis, their backup big, to play solid minutes and take and body with guards. Don't let him get layups. Push him out, and then they're going to need to run shooters off of the line. They did a good job of this against Ohio State. Justin Arns didn't really get any threes up. He went 0 for 2 in that game. He's a 3-point sharpshooter. They're going to need to treat CJ Frederick, Jordan Bohannon, and Joe Wieskamp the same way and make Iowa beat them from Luka Garza having the night of his career again in Ann Arbor, or have them shoot a lot of mid-range jumpers. And I don't think if they shoot a ton of mid-range jumpers and don't execute and get a lot of 3-point shots that are good looks, not forces, that Iowa will have a chance because of the efficiency on the other end. And similar to Iowa, I think some of the best defense that Michigan can run is be good offensively because that puts too much pressure on the Iowa team to execute flawlessly on offense.
Yeah, definitely. I think if it gets into a battle of half-court sets, I would have my money put on Michigan here. I just think they can execute a little bit better, and if they're playing that style of game, their defensive sets in amongst itself might pose more problems for Iowa than I see Iowa's defensive sets posing for Michigan. All right, so let's go into some individual matchups. You kind of hinted at some that you're really looking forward to, but I think the one that really, really stands out in my eyes, well, you can't not think of Garza and Dickinson to headline those. Are there any other ones that you want to unpack a little bit deeper?
I think you have to talk about Franz Wagner and Joe Wieskamp. I think that Joe Wieskamp playing better has really helped take the load off Luka Garza and make the Iowa team less predictable. And then as for Franz Wagner, he's probably the most talented player on the court, even counting Garza, even counting Dickinson, even Isaiah Livers. I think Franz Wagner is the most talented player on the court. He's their gadget man. He does it all. He scores, he rebounds, he defends. Franz Wagner averages 12.4 points per game, 6.7 rebounds, 3 assists, 1.3 steals, and 1.1 blocks. And it feels like he does this without trying to get stats himself. We talked about last game that they scored 92 points with Franz Wagner only shooting 4 shots. I think that's the matchup that really decides it because I think you're going to get points out of both Hunter Dickinson and Luka Garza. And then I have just one little shout out that is Isaiah Livers, to me, is the person who makes Michigan the most dangerous because he's got the body to defend in the post as a 4, but he stretches teams out unbelievably, creating so much space for the rolling gravity of Hunter Dickinson. And he's just a matchup nightmare. And I think we saw that very much so against Ohio State, where E.J. Liddell and Kyle Young, who are the same size as Isaiah Livers, a little heavier, but same height, had to chase him around the perimeter, and it created too much space for Hunter Dickinson and the guards of Michigan to penetrate off of. So those are kind of the front court is where this matchup is at, and that's the other one other than the obvious 2 big men.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that for sure. One of the things that stands out to me is Michigan's guard play as well. They were really good against Ohio State. I think they're going to have to be really good here as well against Iowa. Eli Brooks and company really managing this game. They're not necessarily the most explosive scorers, but they are able to manage a game and play to the style that they need to play to get the job done and win. And if they find success with running and gunning, then they're going to be able to do that. If they find success with slowing it down and playing their half court sets, then that's what they're going to have to do. And I think having that sort of not like leadership, but that experience and the faith in those guys to be able to get the job done really turns me into a believer here in Michigan and what they're trying to do. What are any other thoughts on what's going to happen here?
I think this is gonna be a high scoring affair, which is not a crazy thing to say. But I do think that the pace will be slowed down a little bit by Michigan. I think they're not going to want to run and gun. There, like you said, they fare better in a half court set than Iowa. So I think you'll see somewhere in the middle of their two normal paces. You see a little slower from both teams, and I think Michigan and Juwan Howard is going to bring the NBA mentality of some new coaching sets and things that Iowa hasn't seen yet this year. And I believe their athleticism might be too much for Iowa, but I'm very much looking forward to seeing the tactical battles between coaches in this game, as well as a lot of the individual matchups we highlighted.
So I got a question for you. It's either what is the number that Iowa can score and feel comfortable in this one with maybe winning the game, or what is the number that they are going to have to get to have a chance to win this game? I guess you can kind of answer that either way that you see fit.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think that to feel comfortable that they'll win is probably around 95 points. And that seemed crazy because that's over their average, which is already very high. But I just have that much faith in Michigan's ability to score and score efficiently against an Iowa defense, despite improvements that isn't that great. And they've been able to do it against teams that are physical in the Big Ten, even though they haven't played the top teams. But against Wisconsin, that's a very physical team, and they were able to score very effectively in the second half once they shook off some rust. And as for the second part of the question, what's a number that they need to score in order to have a chance to win? I would say around 80. I think that maybe 75 to 80. I think in that case, if the game is slowed down enough, that means there's fewer possessions, that 75 to 80 could get you a win if Michigan's not shooting very well. But I wouldn't feel comfortable if I scored 80 points and I'm Iowa. I think that Michigan easily could score around 85, 88. And in fact, we have predicted these. We have our picks already out. I had a score of exactly Michigan 88 to 80 against Iowa in this game. So like I feel like that isn't a comfortable number for Iowa, but it certainly gives them a chance.
Yeah, definitely. We saw Michigan put up 92 there against Ohio State in their last outing. So they're definitely capable of scoring as well. All right. Any final thoughts on this Iowa-Michigan matchup before we sign off, or do you think we kind of got it all covered?
I think we got it, but I got one question for you actually. Do you think Iowa gets a win in this trip between Ann Arbor and Columbus?
Yes, but I don't think it's this game. I think they will beat Ohio State. I think Ohio State kind of had it all on the table there against Michigan in a way, and I'm not necessarily saying that they're going to have a letdown performance after that, but seeing the way some of those performances kind of hinder teams moving forward is interesting for me to look forward. I also just think Michigan's a much better team than Ohio State. I think Ohio State played a decent game, and Michigan had things that they could have improved upon, and they still scored 92 points against Ohio State. So I think the way Michigan's really able to exploit defensive liabilities is a huge aspect of this game. And I know that I was buckling down on defense. I love to see the increase in their numbers. I think that's going to be great for moving forward in in Big Ten play and also the NCAA tournament. So I do like all of that going for Iowa. I just think Michigan's on right now. I think they're 2-on, coming off of pause, and they're still 3-0 coming in here after all that happening. They're riding such good momentum. So I don't think Iowa gets it done against Michigan. I think they could beat Ohio State much more foreseeably. But I also just think that to hang with both teams, they're going to need just really, really good performances from everybody involved. It can't just be Garza.
Yeah, absolutely. They need to show their depth. They need to rebound. That's another key that I'd add in is in both these games they need to show that their 40 plus rebounds per game is legit and not just playing smaller teams because Michigan is not small and Ohio State isn't height wise huge, but they're big boys and Kyle Young and AJ Liddell are tough to keep off the glass.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Make sure to tune into this one tonight. It's going to be a fantastic game here between Iowa and Michigan, 7 p.m. Eastern time for all of y'all. And that's going to be on ESPN once again. Yeah, let us know what you think. Hit us up either on comments, subscribe, like, whatever you want. We're on every single social media platform except Facebook because I do not personally have a Facebook and I'm not sure about Leafs Facebook status, but it's kind of an outdated platform in my eyes, at least. I think Instagram and Twitter are much more efficient, as well as YouTube for uploading all of our content. So make sure to follow along, like, subscribe, comment. We'll be there. We'll always engage with anything that we get. So feel free to hit us up. So any final thoughts, Lee, before we sign off?
Just enjoy this game. I think these are two of the top teams in the country. This is a Big Ten battle that really has a lot of stake in the Big Ten and can determine a lot of things in the postseason as well, because seeding really matters in the Big Ten tournament, because in the Big Ten, it's a gauntlet. You want to get the best path you can possibly get, the most buys. And so this is a huge game in all aspects.
Definitely. A lot on the line. All right, y'all. Take care. Enjoy it. We'll catch you next time.